I'm 52 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the kind of woman who followed the rules. I married young, raised 2 daughters, and stayed loyal to my husband through every storm and season. I believed in routines, in quiet decency, in loving the life I built, even when that love grew quieter, even when the life got smaller. To me, love was never about sparks or thrills. It was about staying, about showing up, about being there day after day. But something happened recently, something I still struggle to explain. It wasn't planned. It wasn't meant to change anything. And yet it changed everything. Not in a dramatic movie scene way. Quietly. Like a breath you didn't realize you were holding until it left your lungs. Please, don't make the same mistake I did. It was a Tuesday. A gray, forgettable kind of afternoon. My car had broken down again. 3rd time that month. And Aaron, my husband, was stuck in back-to-back meetings. So when his colleague, Lucas, offered me a ride home from the grocery store, I said yes without hesitation. I knew Lucas from a handful of company parties and holiday dinners. He was younger than Aaron, mid to late 30s maybe, with a composed way of speaking and an almost old-fashioned politeness. He held doors open, looked people in the eye, asked how you were, and really waited for the answer. I never thought about him much beyond that. But I always noticed how his attention lingered, never inappropriate, just a little longer than others. Like he actually saw you, not just the role you played. He greeted me in the parking lot with a calm smile and offered to load my grocery bags into the trunk of his spotless silver sedan. I chuckled, a little embarrassed. "Are you sure this isn't out of your way?" I asked, sliding into the passenger seat. "Not at all," he said. "I live about 10 minutes past your neighborhood. This just gives me an excuse to escape the office early." His voice was warm and slow, like it had no need to rush. Sitting beside him felt oddly safe. Not something I usually felt with other men. With Aaron, life had become a series of transactions. Bills, appointments, grocery lists. I didn't resent him. That's just what 30 years of marriage does to love sometimes. It turns it into quiet logistics. As we pulled out of the parking lot, the sun peeked through the clouds, casting a soft glow on the dashboard. I saw Lucas glance sideways at me, his hand resting loosely on the wheel. "You're quiet," he said. Shrugged. "It's just one of those days. You know how it is." He nodded without pressing, his eyes back on the road. But somehow, his presence filled the space between us. Not romantic, just real. Present. We made small talk. Traffic, the new bakery on Maple Street, the awkward team-building event at Aaron's office. I laughed more than I expected, especially when Lucas told a story about Aaron flooding the break room while trying to fix the coffee machine. "He didn't mention that part," I said, dabbing a tear of laughter from my eye. "Probably because he blamed it on the intern," Lucas added, grinning. I laughed again, then let the silence return. We rolled through the sleepy suburban stretch where maple trees arched over tidy sidewalks. The houses all looked bathed in golden light. Familiar, safe. Then we stopped at a red light. And something about the stillness in that moment felt different. Like time had paused. Lucas turned to me. Not dramatically, just enough to meet my eyes. "Can I ask you something, Julia?" I nodded, unsure why my pulse suddenly quickened. "Do you ever wonder if you're still seen?" I blinked. "Seen?" He nodded again. "Not as someone's wife or someone's mom. Just as yourself." I turned toward the window, focusing on the neighborhood rolling past. I tried to keep my voice even. "All the time," I whispered. The light turned green. But he didn't move right away. He gave me space. And when I didn't say more, he gently pressed the gas. The rest of the ride was quiet. Not awkward, just heavy with something unspoken. My hands stayed folded in my lap, my eyes on the lilacs blooming in neat front yards. But inside, my thoughts spun in a storm. Do you ever wonder if you're still seen? It wasn't flirtation, or maybe it was, in the gentlest form. But it was something more than that. It was the first time in years someone had looked at me and not seen Aaron's wife. Not the woman who brought pumpkin pie to every Thanksgiving. Just me. We turned onto my street. I glanced at Lucas. His profile was calm. There was no smirk. No pressure. Just quiet attention. "Thank you for the ride," I said softly. He didn't put the car in park. Just sat there, engine humming. "Julia," he said, his voice low and sure. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I hope I didn't." "You didn't," I replied quickly. "It's just, no one's asked me that in a long time." He looked at me, really looked. "There's something in you that's still so alive," he said. "But I get the feeling you've been told to keep it tucked away." I felt heat rise to my face. Not shame. Just awareness. Like someone had spoken a language I'd forgotten I understood. I reached for the door handle, but he spoke again. "Would it be okay if I walked you to the porch?" The part of me that managed bills, baked casseroles, and reminded Aaron to take his cholesterol meds said no. But a smaller voice, one that had grown quieter over the years, whispered yes. "Sure," I said. We walked the short path to the porch. My light was flickering again, and I made a mental note to have it fixed. Or fix it myself. As I fumbled with my keys, Lucas stood a step behind me. "I'm sorry if I crossed a line," he said. "You didn't," I replied, turning slightly. "It's just hard to know what to do with a moment like that." He nodded. "I think sometimes moments happen to remind us we're still human. Still capable of feeling things." There it was again, that quiet truth. Not a seduction. Not a proposal. Just someone saying, "I see you." "Thank you," I said, my voice catching. He offered a soft smile. "Have a good evening, Julia." "You too, Lucas." He walked back to his car. I stood there for a long moment, the key in my hand, the door still locked behind me. Inside, the house smelled faintly of lemon polish. The stillness felt louder than usual. I set my bag on the counter and just stood there. Nothing had happened. Not in the traditional sense. But something had shifted. And I couldn't unfeel it. 2 days later, Lucas texted. "Hope this isn't crossing a line, but I'm heading out for coffee later. If you'd like to join, no pressure." I stared at the message. Could have ignored it. Should have, maybe. But I didn't. We met at a small cafe on Dawson and Fifth. Ivy crept up the sides of the windows. The inside smelled of cinnamon and something warm. I chose a booth in the back, not to hide but to feel still. When Lucas arrived, he looked a little surprised to see me already there. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I almost didn't," I replied, stirring a coffee I hadn't even touched. "I know." There was a long silence. But again, not uncomfortable. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him. "About being seen." He leaned forward, listening. I didn't realize how much I missed it. Not attention. Just being noticed. Past the surface. "We spend so much of our lives taking care of others," he said. "We forget to check in with ourselves." "I think I got lost," I admitted. "A long time ago." We didn't say anything for a while. Then he spoke softly. "I don't want to complicate your life, Julia. That's not why I texted. I just enjoy talking to you." It wasn't a move. It wasn't a game. It was kindness. We talked for nearly an hour. About music, childhoods, our favorite meals. I told him I used to dance barefoot in the kitchen when the girls were young, just to feel something. He smiled like I'd handed him a secret. When we finally stood, there was that pause again. That breath between moments. He opened the door for me. "Julia," he said. "If you ever need to talk, or just breathe differently for a while, I'm here." I nodded, holding his gaze a little too long. "Thank you." We parted on the sidewalk. No promises. No regrets. Just a quiet knowing. That night, lying in bed beside Aaron, his back turned, breathing even, I felt something stir. Not guilt. Not desire. Just awareness. A week passed. I didn't see Lucas. I didn't reach out either. I needed time to sit with the invisible question now stitched into every corner of my routine. Who had I become? And who was I still allowed to be? One evening after Aaron went upstairs, I stayed in the kitchen, wiping the already clean counters. My reflection in the window stared back. Faded maybe, but still there. Still me. That night I told Aaron I needed to talk. We sat at the dining table, just like we used to when we were young and figuring everything out. "I've been feeling invisible," I said. He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't think you really see me anymore. And I'm not sure I've let you." He sat back, rubbing his jaw. "Where is this coming from?" "From a place inside me that's been quiet for too long." I didn't mention Lucas, because this wasn't about him. This was about me. "I thought we were comfortable," Aaron said. "We are," I replied. "But I want more than that. I want to feel alive again." We sat in that silence, but this time it felt full. Present. "What do you need from me?" he asked finally. "I don't know yet," I whispered. "But I need to start figuring it out." The next morning I took a walk. No makeup, no plan, just open air. Halfway through I passed the coffee shop on 5th and Dawson. Stopped. Went inside. Lucas wasn't there. Strangely, I was okay with that. I ordered a coffee, found a table near the window, and pulled out a notebook I hadn't touched in years. The pages were blank. But I wasn't. I didn't need rescuing. I didn't need a man to tell me who I was. I just needed to remember that I'm still here. And as I sipped my coffee, pen to paper, I realized something. I was finally seeing myself again. And that was enough.